Hello Year 8, it's Mrs. Reed and welcome to Lesson 5 where we're going to be exploring non-fiction texts. So today is Wednesday the 15th of September and you can see this is Lesson 5, so after this we only have one more remote lesson before you will all be returning to your face-to-face lessons in college. Please make sure you're ready before you start today, so make sure you have a pen or pencil and some paper too to write on. You're going to need to allow around 45 minutes to complete the lesson today. Okay, when you're ready, we can make a start. Let's start with a retrieval quiz, looking back on our learning over the last 4 lessons. So I'd like you to pause the video here, write the numbers 1 to 4 in the margin, and then write down your answers. Don't continue watching the video, please, until you have had a go at answering each one. Okay, so number 1, which rhetorical device includes a repeated word or phrase at the start of successive clauses? I have given you a hint for this one. You can see the beginning and ending letter as a prompt. Number 2, what is antithesis? We know this is a useful rhetorical device, so can you please explain in your own words what you understand about that device? Number 3, which appeal of rhetoric, of the 3 rhetorical appeals, which one uses logic, reason and truth? And finally, we looked a few lessons ago at the technique juxtaposition. So I would like to know, why do writers juxtapose images or ideas? What does that device allow them to do? Pause the video and write down your answers now, please. Okay, let's go through and mark. You might like to use another coloured pen to do this and give yourself a mark out of 4 at the end. Number 1, the device that uses a repeated word or phrase at the start of successive clauses is anaphora. Okay, anaphora. Well done if you got that one correct. Number 2, what is antithesis? So antithesis is the pairing up of opposite images or ideas. Number 3, the appeal of rhetoric that uses logic, reason and truth is logos. And finally, why do writers juxtapose images and ideas? Well, we know they place these ideas side by side, often to highlight the differences between them and make the difference between them really clear to the reader. Okay, well done. Give yourself a mark out of 4. So throughout this unit so far, we have been reading non-fiction texts. We've read a range of texts that look at the birth of 16 Dalmatians. We've looked at Dalmatians as carriage dogs in the 19th century. We've learned a little bit about pets in Japan and the way in which many dogs may be looked after and spoiled like children. And we've also looked at attitudes towards pets and how they changed over time, particularly looking at that article from Battersea Dogs Home. So today I'd like you to start thinking about writing a non-fiction text of your own. This means that we're going to be given a statement and we're going to write a speech that argues our opinion in relation to that statement. We will be doing this over 2 lessons. So today's lesson we'll be planning ideas, and in tomorrow's lesson we will be drafting and editing our response before we send it off to our teachers. Okay, so in the middle of the screen here you can see a statement. It says, people have become too attached to their pets. Animals are here to be useful, not to be spoilt. You have been asked to write a speech to be delivered in class that argues your opinion to this statement. So you might want to think about whether you agree or disagree with the points made here. Have we become too attached to our pets? In what ways might we be seen to spoil them? Do you agree that animals are here to be useful, that they are supposed to serve a particular purpose or help us? Do you even think that we spoil our pets too much? So you are going to be really thinking carefully about your own ideas today. You might want to discuss with other people at home what they think too. And you're also going to need to consider what someone might say who disagreed with you. Let's start by planning some points. You're going to pause the video here and write down at least 3 statements on each side of the grid. Read the statement again, decide what points would you use to agree with these ideas, and what points would you use to disagree with those ideas. Pause the video and do that now, please. So I'm going to give some examples now, and you may choose to borrow some of my ideas if you think that they are useful to you. And you can use this time also for thinking about developing your own points that you've written down in the grid. So number 1, I've said agree first of all. People have become too attached to their pets. If I was to agree with that, I might say that yes, maybe they do just spend so much time with their pets. Maybe owners now carry them around, perhaps putting them into little handbags, having their own little kind of doggy buggies and things to push them around in, and that they will never leave them alone. Perhaps those dogs are getting very attached to them, don't like to be left. Maybe they are a little bit overweight because they're being carried around everywhere. If I was to agree with that, I'm sure I could find some examples that suggest that we really do baby and treat our pets like humans. I might argue then that people spend lots of money on their pets today. We buy them treats, we buy them outfits. I know my dog has his own Christmas jumper, for example. We buy them gifts, new toys, new beds, all sorts of things. I think you can even buy doggy calendars for Christmas now, where you get a little dog treat in each day leading up to Christmas. So I think there's lots of examples here that I could use if I was going to argue that we have become too attached to pets and that they are spoiled. If I wanted to agree with the second part of the statement that animals are here to be useful, I could also find some ideas to support that. I might say that animals do really serve a purpose. If we get a pet, perhaps we get them for a reason. It might be that that pet serves some kind of protection to us, makes us feel safe in our home because they might bark to alert us to somebody being close by or an intruder. I might say that animals might be there for support. In fact, we can have animals that are used perhaps for a whole range of different reasons. Perhaps they are there to ease our anxiety. They might be a guide dog, for example. Or it could be an animal that is a working animal, a horse perhaps, or a sheepdog, for example, on a farm. So if I wanted to agree with that statement, I think there's a lot of things I could really find to say. On the other hand, though, if I think of it in another perspective, I could disagree too. I could say that it's not really fair to say people have become too attached to their pets because they may just enjoy caring for animals. It might bring them happiness or even companionship. If I was to disagree with the idea of spoiling animals, perhaps I would say that It's because we've formed such a close bond with them and they've now become part of our family, and that's perfectly okay. I might say it's not spoiling them as long as they are healthy and happy and well looked after. It doesn't matter how many gifts we provide them with, they can still be healthy and social animals. I wonder how this compares to your ideas. Have you had a chance to chat this through with anybody at home? So if we are going to start creating an argument of our own, we don't just want to have an agree or disagree grid. What we want to do is think about what other techniques have we learned but are going to be really helpful in creating a highly persuasive text. We know that the 3 appeals of rhetoric are going to form a central part of our argument. We're going to use logos, so some facts and ideas that refer to people's logic and reason, truthful ideas. We're going to use ethos, so build a sense of credibility and trust. Perhaps you have pets of your own that you could refer to. Or you might want to use some of those ideas from the text that we've read. And finally, we'll use pathos. Remember, pathos is an appeal to our emotions or values. So we're going to want to use language that is really emotive and make that perhaps the most dramatic part of our argument. In fact, we have a knowledge organiser that can help us with this. This is taken from our Year 7 unit on rhetoric and persuasion. It might help to remind you of some of the really useful words and terms that you've learned already to do with this topic. So I have placed a PDF version of this on to show my homework that you can also refer to. You might want to just check now that you can access that and bring it up on your screen. Okay, so now we have our task. We've thought about our initial ideas of agreeing and disagreeing, and we're now thinking back to the learning that we've done around rhetoric. Now let's remind ourselves of a really excellent speech structure. We can see here that the structure has 5 parts. It begins with an appeal to ethos. So this is building a relationship with the audience, the people that you are speaking to, and perhaps setting up an idea that presents yourself as welcoming and friendly and something that they can relate to. To build on this, the next step is logos. At this stage, we are going to use logic and reason. So here we might want to use some factual information. As we move up into that pyramid shape, we can see that we reach the most dramatic part of our argument. This wants to be really powerful and have impact. So we'll use pathos here and appeal to the audience's emotions. As we go back down towards the end of our argument, we need to recognise what somebody might say who held the opposite view to us. We call this the counter-argument, and we are going to set up what we think a counter-argument would be, and then we're cleverly going to argue against it. And finally, we want to prove our point, so we're going to think of a really clear and direct appeal to the audience at the end that finally proves our argument is the right one. I would suggest that you pause the video here and copy down that structure.